District 2 Slasher Review.
While on the topic of the modifiers, the Chaos Shuffle is going to be playable May 16th to the 23rd. Is there anything you can tell us about that one?
I believe that those dates are correct. Will correct me if I'm wrong. Well, I don't want to go into the details of the game other than essentially that's it, right? You go into the game and you're essentially assigned perks randomly through all the different perks in the game, whether you own the characters that these perks are attached to or not. You're just sort of given a loadout and you make the best of it.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, the element of uncertainty has always been at the very, very core of Dead by Daylight, right? The idea of not knowing who you're up against, the idea of not knowing which map you're going to be in, who are the actual players behind the different players around you, behind the characters around you. It's always been at the very core. So I do believe that the Chaos Shuffle is going to be quite a lot of fun. And like, people love to have their favorite loadouts, but being forced into trying other things that you normally wouldn't is kind of fun too, because there's so much stuff in Dead by Daylight, so many combinations possible. It's very easy to sort of get stuck in not necessarily a rut, because it sounds very negative, but sort of it's easier to do the thing that you usually do.
Yeah, and I see that even watching people stream, a lot of redeems or random perks or pick my build. And several times I've heard, I kind of like this. I've never tried it before. Yeah, you don't know what's out there until you try it.
Exactly. Randomness. I mean, that there's a reason why Dungeons and Dragons uses dice, right? It's fun. It's fun to be told what the story will be, and then sort of go with it and explore. Limitations are great for creativity.
Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons,
yes,
new chapter. I know how big of a fan you guys are. So even before we get into Vecna and all these things that are going on, could you talk a little bit about, because everyone knows how big of a D&D fan you are personally.
Yeah.
What did the importance of this to you, your team?
Look,
yeah, go for it.
I don't know if you're seeing my camera. I know I'm all alone showing my face in here, but if you do, like, I found those. They were in my library. Can you see those? Oh, you can't see those.
In and out. Yeah,
it's blurry. Just give me a sec. Do not blur. There you go. These are the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books that I started playing with. They're the 1980 edition, but I got them probably in 83 or something like that. I must have been 8 or 9 at the time. And I kept those. They were actually wrapped in plastic by my mother, who did the same with all of my school books at the time. And so, yeah, I've kept those very preciously. They're sort of an artifact here for me. Yeah, I've been playing vigorously for the last. I mean, there were pauses throughout, but we started again about 9 years ago, I want to say. And my group of friends, we've been playing every Wednesday. Now it's Tuesdays because we had to change, but we've been able to keep playing every week for the last 9 years almost. So yeah, it's a very personal thing for me. It's such a huge part of who I am today and why I do the things that I do, because it forged me in more ways than none. And in the stream, I talked to Sean, our friend from Wizard of the Coast, a little bit, and we touched upon that a little bit. But to me, it's more than just learning how to craft stories or even get into game design, which is an absolutely important part of all of this. But I think that role-playing games, and I know there were studies done on that, but I can't quote them right now. But role-playing games, at least to me and to the people around me, have been such a great way to build empathy and to build a way to think where you more easily put yourself in other people's shoes, right? And it helps to be able to, that, like I said, to have empathy for other people, because you can imagine being other than what you are. And I think it's an extremely powerful tool for kids to learn how to interact with people. Now I'm getting a little carried away and I rant as I usually do.
No, yeah.
To me, Dungeons and Dragons is not just about like spending a Wednesday night with your friends, but it's also about exploring sort of parts of yourself and yeah. It's just I absolutely love this.
When you were looking through all of the Dungeons and Dragons lore, how you kind of came to the decision to incorporate Vecna and like what that decision was like. Was it at all impacted by the fact that you've been playing since Advanced Dungeons and Dragons? Because that's like one of the OGs.
It's kind of funny because my boss, Stephen Maroney, who's the VP of Behavior Digital, like he's the guy in charge, and he's probably slightly more knowledgeable about Dungeons and Dragons than I am. Like he is a huge D&D nerd also, and we ended up having some really like silly, like from the outside, silly conversations about characters it could be about and maps and things, because we have so much common shared knowledge, but it went so deep that at some point we were looking at each other going, nobody else knows this shit, right? Like it's fun for us and we're super excited, but all these names we keep dropping, we're sort of just showing off to each other, but like it's pointless. We had to take a step back a little bit and look at things that are a little more classic, I've made a bit more of an imprint on popular culture, something that people would resonate with a little more, because it has to be more than just fan service to the absolute hardcore fans. It has to be accessible. Fortunately, the last, let's say 2, 3, maybe 4 years, I've seen Dungeons and Dragons take a huge center place in popular culture, right? The whole Critical Role and Dimension 20 and all of these people making podcasts and series of content about role playing, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or other, but mostly Dungeons and Dragons, has really put that front and center in people's minds. The whole Vox Machina series, if you've seen it, it's awesome. The movie that just came out, and then we knew also that there was a big 50th anniversary celebration that was going to happen. So it was sort of a perfect moment to dig into that. Now, to answer more precisely your question, yeah, we did name a couple of other